Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be my June TBR as well as my TBR for the Whatever-You-Wantathon going on all throughout the month of June. Now, this is a really cool readathon and it has a lot of moving parts, so I'm just going to be leaving the creator of this readathon's video down below so you can check it out. Not too late to sign up. There are lots of different teams. You can literally read whatever you want throughout the month of June and have it count towards your readathon progress. You get to pick a team, try and complete a bunch of prompts, and you also get to set your own reading goals. So it's a very customizable readathon. It looks like it's going to be a whole lot of fun and I'm really excited to participate in it. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, go ahead and check out that video. I will leave it in the description box down below. I'm on the green team, or the Dreams and Drama Queens team, and that is the team that you primarily read fantastical or magical sort of books. So this can fit in a whole lot of genres. I was really tempted to pick Team Epic and High because number one, that name just really gets me. It always makes me laugh. But then the second part is because I do like a lot of epic and high fantasy. However, when I was putting together my books for this month that I wanted to read, I noticed that while some of them were fantasy, not all of them were high fantasy, and I do also want to read a lot of horror and speculative fiction as well. So I thought this fantastical magical category would fit my reading tastes a little bit more. But again, you don't have to read within any genre even though you pick a team with a certain genre, so it is very all-encompassing, which is exciting. But I am on the green team. So my personal goal for the month of June is to read 15 books. That is what I pledged to for this readathon. I do think that is very realistic for me while also still being a stretch goal, because looking back at the past 5 months of this year, I have read anywhere from, I think the lowest month was 7 books and then the highest month was 12 books. So I do normally hit within an average of 10 books a month. I figured 15 would be a stretch and a goal, but something that still could be fairly achievable for me. Also, as well as there are 15 prompts, you can double up on prompts, but I did think it would be nice to just read one book for each prompt. I am a completionist like that, so I wanted to see if I could read 15 different books for each of the prompts. I might double up, doesn't really matter. That's what's great about this readathon, as well as you do get extra points because it is Pride Month. June is Pride Month if you read books that are queer. So keeping those soft parameters in mind, I am a mood reader, so I didn't pick 15 strict books out for my TBR, but I did pick a handful of books that I want to read this month and then leave the rest up to mood reads, or if I want to change around my TBR a little bit, I can. So let's just get into it. I'll talk about some of the books that I'm planning on reading, and I will also be talking about the prompts that they can fit for this readathon. So the first book on my TBR is going to be Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth, and this counts for a whole lot of prompts. I tried to pick books that go for a variety of different prompts. This was one of my favorite books of last year, and it's my birthday month in June, so I really would like to reread it. I try and reread one of my favorites every single June, so this would work for the prompt reread a comfort read. It's one of my favorites. Even though it is like a gothic horror, I still very much consider it a comfort read to me, so that would definitely work for that. It'll count for the bonus points because this is very, very sapphic. All of our main characters are sapphic in one way or another. Some have labels, some don't. There are 2 different timelines in this. One is in like the turn of the century, 1904, something like that, and then the other timeline is in present day, so you do get lots and lots of sapphic representation in here. I have technically bought this one within the last year, so that would work for that prompt as well. I'm very excited to reread this. This is a gothic horror about a boarding school and some sinister happenings happening there. That is in like the 1904 timeline. And then in our present timeline, we have a young writer who has written a book about the events that happened at that school, and her book gets bought and turned into a screenplay. So she is helping turn her story into a screenplay about the events of the first timeline, and then the second timeline really follows the filming and production of that movie, while there might be some more creepy events happening at that same location. So I really enjoyed this one. The audiobook book is wonderful. I really enjoyed that experience. If you like creeping gothic horror tales, this is definitely a long book and it is very much a gothic tone. I think you'll really like this one. If you really loved The Haunting of Bly Manor, the TV show, then I think you would really like this one. The next book that I want to read this month is In the Ravenous Dark by Strickland, and this is kind of another book where I feel like it's kind of horror, kind of fantasy, dark fantasy, those sort of vibes, but it's about a blood mage who teams up with an undead spirit to start a rebellion among the living and the dead. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one as my 5-star prediction. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. This was on my most anticipated releases of the year. There are a lot of tropes and themes within the blurb of this book that I tend to really enjoy, so I think that I will really love this one. This does also count bonus points because it is very queer. Our main character is pansexual, and I believe there is a gender fluid character as well. All I know is that there is a lot of representation in this one, so that'll count for bonus points. So I'm very excited to pick this book up, read a little bit more about it. I'm going into it just with like that little tagline and hearing some other people say some wonderful things about this book whose reviews I really trust, so looking forward to that one. The next book that I'm looking forward to reading is The Lights of Prague by Nicole Jarvis, and this is a book that says it's for readers of V.E. Schwab and The Witcher. It's in Gaslight era Prague and it's about vampires. So I'm using this for the prompt. It is an author's debut. Again, I feel like this also could be one that could be a 5-star prediction because I love everything having to do with that synopsis. I love vampire books. This sounds like it is going to be a really cool period piece. This could also work for Hauled. In the last year, I am planning on purchasing this book through Libro FM. Dark Gothic vampire tales, what's not to love? I also have heard that our main character is bisexual. I haven't dove too much into reviews because I don't want to get spoiled, but I believe that this would also work for representation in that aspect as well for bonus points. Speaking of sapphic vampires, one of the best phrases in this whole video, I think. The next book that I want to read is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is an epistolary novel where it is told in letter format. Our main character perspective is one of Dracula's brides, and she is writing letters to kind of explain her life. I've heard this deals with a lot of heavy issues such as abusive relationships, so this is indie self-published, so that would work for that prompt. I did purchase the audiobook through Libro FM earlier this year, and I have been saving it for June because I love vampire fiction, and I have a feeling based on the people that I know who have read this and have really loved it, I have similar reading taste to them, so I wanted to save this one for June. I've been really saving a lot of books that I've wanted to read for June because it's my birthday month. This also could work for the prompt disability or mental health representation, just based on the hard topics this is dealing with that definitely impacts your mental health. So I don't know how much it'll get into that, but I am very, very excited to read this one. Again, I feel like I have a lot of books on this list that could potentially make it to my favorites of the year, so I'm very optimistic for this month. Next up on the TBR, we have The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes, and this is by Elissa R. Sloan. And this one I'm using primarily for the book that is out of your comfort zone. This is literary fiction, and I really stay within the realms of fantasy and horror, and I don't typically read any books that are set primarily in our world with no magical elements. So this is definitely out of my comfort zone. I believe this is a multi-point of view story. I think it takes place in present day, but it does have some flashbacks to the 90s. I'm not really sure, but that is a big component of it. It is following a girl group, a girl band called the Glossies. They are a girl group, and it takes place in like the 90s is when they get their start, and then they break up in the early 2000s. There are 4 characters. I believe you follow each of them. There's something tragic that happens at the beginning of this book to one of the members, and then it kind of dives into the lives of each of these girl group members and their present lives and their past lives, and kind of exploring what went wrong. This intrigued me. I picked this up from Book of the Month because I am a 90s baby. I'm very familiar with boy bands, girl bands, all of those like 90s culture nostalgia things, and then early 2000s culture I think is going to be really fun. I think it's going to be a really interesting era of I don't know if we'd call it historical fiction yet. If it's in like the 90s and 2000s, I mean, it was 20-30 years ago, so it's definitely not strictly contemporary. So I think that time era will be really fun to read from, especially because I was a kid and I was consuming a lot of media like Britney Spears and just all of these different conversations and train wrecks and just conversations about child stars and youthful stars and how fame can really get at you. I did not have any of that nuance and understanding. To be fair, with some of it, I don't think any of us did, especially because of all of like the Britney Spears conversations coming out in 2020 and 2021. That's kind of a different conversation. But I just feel like I participated in the culture, but I was way too young to have any sort of nuance about like what it might be like to be in a girl group, to have that kind of fame and how it impacts each individual member. So I am interested to read this one and see how I like it. So this one would not only work for out of your comfort zone, but I do believe there is a sapphic main character in here. This would also work for POC representation. The author, Elissa Sloan, is Japanese American, as well as one of our main characters is, if not Japanese American, Asian American in here, and it does talk about being a minority in the 90s and especially in the public light. And this also does heavily deal with mental health representation, and not just for our titular main character, but I believe all of them to some degree have some mental health struggles. So this will count for a lot of prompts. I'm interested in reading it. It's definitely one that's out of my comfort zone. Next up on my TBR, we have a comfort read that I specifically picked because I'm reading a lot of darker fantasy or horror fantasy books that tackle dark topics this month. So I decided to go with one of my favorite childhood series, comfort read. If you're not new to the channel, you know I've been having a lot of fun rereading some of my childhood favorites throughout this year. So I'm going to go with this Warriors book. This one is book 2 of the Dawn of the Clans prequel series, Thunder Rising. It's just a fun fantasy middle grade series about cats that are in different warrior clans, and it's just a very fun time. This one doesn't fit a whole lot of prompts, but that's okay. It's very short. It's just as like a little breath of fresh air in between some darker reads this month, but it does fit the prompt, read a book that has a cover that is your team's color, and I am the green team and this is a green book, so that works for that prompt. Next up, we have a book that I've been putting off for a couple of months now, not because I'm not interested in it, but because I'm really interested in it. I feel like it's going to be one of my favorite books of this year, and I know I've said that a lot in this video, but I do truly mean it for this one. It is the last book that has been published in a series that has quickly become one of my favorite series. That is going to be The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon, the 4th book in the Bone Season series. I have heard that this ends very brutally. I've heard that very many tears are shed. People are talking that this has just completely ripped their heart out by the end. So me, being the Cancer Sun and Rising that I am, decided that sounds like a really fun way to spend your birthday month, is crying over a book and characters that you've grown to love so much, and this is going to have a lot of emotional weight, so figured June was the month to do that in. This is also one that could count for 5-star prediction, as well as this is a very queer series. Lots of main and side characters identify on the LGBTQIA spectrum, so it will count for that as well. I also bought this in January, I believe, January or like early February, so this counts as hauled in the last year. As well as one of the prompts is read a book from one of the hosts' favorite lists, and this is Ashley from A Frolic in Fictions, her favorite series, or one of her favorite series. She talks about this series a lot, so this also fits for that prompt as well. I am very, very scared. I'm looking forward to it. I am very scared. Also, just because I started reading this series this year. So I read The Bone Season in January, I read The Mime Order in February, and I read The Song Rising in March. And then I've just been putting this off because I know that there's no 5th book to read after this one as of yet. And I've heard it ends on a sad cliffhanger. So yeah, I'm nervous about this one. I'm very excited about this one, but I'm also very nervous. And then last up, we have a prompt that is poll pick. So one of my goals for 2021 was to read one Stephen King book every single month. I haven't actually picked one out for the month of June yet, so I figured that is where the poll prompt will come into play. I have my Instagram linked down below because I probably will be doing this more of a spur of a moment poll on my Instagram stories, just seeing which one of these books that I should pick up next. So if you're not following me, go ahead and follow me on Instagram so you can vote in the poll when it gets closer to me picking up one of these books. But my two options for June are Duma and Lisey's Story. So both of these don't really fit into any specific prompts. I mean, one of the prompts is the cover reminds you of a pride flag, and I haven't picked one out for that book simply because I feel like a lot of my picks could potentially work for that one, so that'll be a prompt that I'm just filling in at the end. But both of these books are very, very colorful. However, I really don't think that there is going to be any queer representation in here. So I don't really know anything about either one of these books. I just picked them because they have very colorful covers. This one especially seems like a summery read. So I figure just to get my total 2021 reading goal achieved for this month, as well as achieve this readathon, I could potentially use one of them there. This is very colorful. I'm sure I could find a pride flag that matches these exact colors. And then this one just looks like it's plain red, but then when you open the cover, it is very rainbowy in the middle. So like I said, either one of these I might use for that prompt. I don't know a lot about them, so for some of the things that are in here, I don't know, for example, maybe there is disability or mental health representation in one of these. I don't know. I'd have to read them to find out. If it turns out that they don't really have any prompts, I'll add like one of these on as like a 16th book, hopefully, and read 16 books instead of 15. But these are my two Stephen King picks that I will be doing a poll on my story to see which one that I should read for the month of June. And then I am done talking about books in specific, but one more thing, I do try and read a non-fiction book every single month as well. That's another one of my 2021 goals. I haven't picked one out for this month yet. I would like to potentially read one that does have to do with LGBTQIA plus issues, just because it is Pride Month, have that be a little bit topical, but it can really be anything. Honestly, I'm not too picky. I really enjoy nonfiction of all sorts. So if you have any recommendations for a nonfiction book I should read in the month of June, leave them down below, please, because I still have not picked a nonfiction book yet for this month, which is usually not a problem for me. I usually have that picked out before any of my fiction books. Just this month I'm coming up blank on what I want to read about, so definitely leave your suggestions down below. But that is going to be the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, again giving me any book recommendations, or if you're participating in this readathon, what team you're on. Subscribe for more content from me. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!